to start with some depressing news. Are you ready? Are you ready to get to it?
Can't wait.
Damian Lillard, he has been diagnosed with deep vein thrombosis, which are blood clots in his right calf. He will be out indefinitely. The Bucks announced that he is on blood thinners. They say they're optimistic he could return this season. And GM John Horst said doctors have indicated that his situation is very unlikely to occur again, which I think first and foremost, that's if this isn't considered life-threatening or a long-term thing, that's immediately awesome. Does it feel before we get to the basketball, Damian Lillard of it all, Wemby, Assad, like, doesn't it feel like we're dealing with more of these blood clot situations, or is that just me kind of reading, like having recency bias over the past year?
It does, and selfishly, first of all, we can sort of speak sort of flippantly because it seems like the prognosis is very good. Shouldn't be joking about it anyway, but like I really, it's affecting me personally because every time my calf is sore now, I'm like, oh, great. It's probably DVT. Like I told you, like I had like after the Wemby thing, it's like, oh, my shoulder's a little sore. I think, oh, yeah, guess this is it. I guess this is how it ends. Like it definitely makes me, I guess that's just a way to say I'm a lot more conscious of like blood clots now because we've had so many instances of this in the NBA. It's a weird thing. I mean, I wonder too if it's like they're just catching this now and this was always an issue. And it's like, thank God that they're just getting better at diagnosing this and then it's treatable, I suppose. And certainly if it's in like a non-critical area. But yeah, scary stuff. Don't like it. Don't like that it's prevalent now, seemingly. And good news for Dame, I guess, too. Like you certainly don't always see the like very optimistic comments from, people around the team that like he might even be back this season. There's optimism. So that's a positive. Yeah. Terrible news for the Bucks though, who I think like really can't afford to lose a player like Dame just over the dozen or 10 or however many games are left.
I do feel, I'm not a doctor, as anyone who listens to this knows. I just given how much time we've seen players miss whenever blood clots are mentioned, I can't see him returning this season. Like that would honestly shock me just because Ausar Thompson, I know the Pistons weren't good last year, but he missed the final 19 games, missed the start of this year. I know every case is going to be different, but like something happens to Wemby and he's shut down for the rest of the year. I'd be curious what makes okay, this is his calf, it's not his shoulder. I'd just be curious as to what would make this any different. And then it got me thinking sort of just like, okay, like we're going to see, I mean, the Bucks have been derailed by injuries in the postseason ever since they won the title. Middleton once, right, the year after, then Giannis twice, and then now this year maybe Dame. And then I had the thought, and we'll talk more about the long-term trajectory of the Bucks, is just like, are we ever going to see Damian Lillard and Giannis play together in the postseason? Because that didn't, like last year, Giannis out. Yeah. So it sucks. In the interim, they have been going. I don't know how much you've seen of like the Ryan Rollins kid. He's pretty feisty on the defensive end, and that seems to be like that's what they're going to lean into in the absence of Dame, which is probably smart. This clearly increases the importance of Kevin Porter Jr. to Milwaukee as well. But like even with Damian Lillard, the Bucks have not had a banner offense or fourth quarter offense, and this is going to make it. They just don't have. Chris Middleton's gone, and you could talk about whether he was ever going to be healthy enough to be this player. Giannis can break down defenses, but like there's no one else on this team that you trust like as an actual second in command to do that, like even close without like Damian Lillard was probably your best option in those situations. Right. And now it's who's your second best option? Is it KPJ or is it Kuzma? Like is it Gary Trent Jr.? Who is it?
Can we it's probably even like too late to relitigate this, but I was just having the thought the other day, like, because thinking about Drew Holiday and like hasn't shot it well from three at all. Like he is now someone that if you're poking holes in the Celtics, you say like, I don't know, defenses might just leave Drew, and that might be a real, if you're looking for weak spots, that might be one of the only ones the Celtics have. But related to the Dame thing, like, don't you think would the Bucks do the trade over again? Do you think now, having seen like here's how good we are with Dame? Like there's a bunch of variables, the Doc Rivers of it all, the coaching changes, Chris Middleton not staying healthy. I was kind of leaning towards like I think I'd just rather have run it back with Drew and tried to build around the edges. But maybe that's reactionary now that Dame's hurt and like the results haven't been that good.
I think it'd be more if this postseason becomes a wash because Damian Lillard's not available, that's where you just I think I would skew towards what you're saying. But I also, the other thing is too, did they give up? I mean, they did give up pick equity, but like, did they give up enough pick equity to just like, could they have not reinvented, but retooled enough on the fly around Drew Middleton? And I mean,
Maybe.
still would have been dealing with the Middleton health issues, of course. It just, I was a fan. I don't remember where you were. I mean, this was like 2 years ago now at the point.
Yeah.
I was pretty in favor of the trade at the time. I thought, and then I was, we saw last season played out like some of the struggles, and then this season it just hasn't been picture perfect. So that'll be one of the more interesting trades to relitigate like a couple years, even from now.
Yeah, I mean that might give us a little inroad to talking about the Giannis item that we have here, because I've been thinking too, as great as he's been, do you start having thoughts of like, this was complicated by the fact that the Bucks did win a title with Giannis as their best player, but I'm starting, like, he's been phenomenal like this year and last year, and it's just like it never stops. But like, have you been having the thought of, is he really that easy to build a good offense around? Like, or you know what I mean? Like it seems like, Lillard, we like that fit because like, oh, Lillard will solve the late game offense stuff that's plagued the Bucks, and that's an issue because Giannis, for whatever reason, like hasn't been effective as a late game postseason guy. Like, it just, you just think about it zoomed out. He's making short mid rangers now. Great, still doesn't space. Like, I just doesn't have a ton of off ball value. Has never been like a super high volume role guy. Like, Giannis is like low key tricky to build like a normal offense around. And I feel like some of that is what we're seeing here, lately with the Bucks too. But anyway, this is an MVP discussion about.
Well, I think that's an interesting point, because even Dame, who I think like pretty much an intuitive fit, but like because of what Giannis does best on the offensive end, if you're not going to predominantly use him as sort of a screener or play finisher away from the ball and you want to put the ball in his hands, the ideal offense around him then is, do you have more movement, or is it just guys who work exclusively off the ball?
Mm-hmm.
But if you have, or not, I shouldn't say exclusively, but aside from, Steph Curry's the example, like who is the superstar that works so much away from the ball, but like then you can give them the rock and they can break down defenses in those situations. You're always going to tilt, I would say, heavily towards one. Like Kevin Durant would be another great example of someone who would fit, but like, okay, now we're just talking about two of the 10 greatest basketball players of
like
Halliburton.
Halliburton is the guy I would think of where he's got such off ball value, but you
Reed
want it in
Shepard,
his hands.
yeah.
Well, of course, I thought we said him first.
Did you want to take us through what Giannis told Sam Amick?
Yeah, so this just, I mean, kind of a heavy Bucks news stretch here, but so Giannis said they're talking about the MVP, and Giannis said, "Listen, the MVP discussion is great. I've been in the MVP discussion like the last 7 years. Accurate. I think he's like top 5, basically the whole decade, more or less.
I still don't think we talk enough that he won DPOY and MVP in the same season.
Right?
That's freaking wild.
Yeah, it's like the Bucks needed another finals trip, maybe." Or like another couple, and then it's just like Giannis is just like a pantheon all-timer. That's not fair because he's the same player. It's just, I don't know, we need these little benchmarks. Yeah, probably last 7 years, top 3, top 4, top 3, top 4. It's good. It's a great compliment, but at the end of the day, winning's a different feeling. I was able to live it once with the 2021 title. Then I don't know if people feel like it counts or it doesn't count. Wow, he's getting ahead of me or whatever it is, but winning's winning. So is the NBA Cup. It's gone too far there. It was like,
man. Shout out, Giannis.
It was like, wow, this feeling, man. It's like, it's better than intimacy laughs. That's the feeling I'm chasing. Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. Like, there is just we just illustrated it. Like, we sort of gloss over, maybe if Jokic doesn't emerge as like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing we've ever seen right after Giannis is the MVP, maybe then we think of him differently. I don't know. That's interesting. What do you think about those comments?
I think they're candid, and they're just, but they're a little bit cookie cutter, where it's just, okay, MVPs are cool, but I want to win. Like, even Joel Embiid reached that point of his career after he got his MVP. And I actually haven't, I mean, I notice more and more how isolated I am from what I consider the toxic discourse, to where I don't know if this has been spun into like, is Giannis one out of Milwaukee? Like, how is this being framed? But it does feel like, when he reiterates these things and based off how he's acted when they've made moves and he has signed extensions, it does seem as if to me that Giannis is going to look for every single way to stay in Milwaukee, and that they're going to need to actively give him reasons to leave, which I don't know that you can pan how they've retooled this team following the Damian Lillard trade, but like they haven't necessarily given him, like, maybe now you're reaching more of a high leverage inflection point, but like they've done a good job of giving him, it's not even giving him reasons to stay, it's not giving him reasons to leave.
Right. Yeah. Do you do wonder what would have happened if Brook Lopez had just not reneged on the deal with the Rockets? I mean, there's a lot. That's like a big, like, who knows how things change for multiple teams in that hypothetical, but like it, the Bucks have tried. Like the Middleton trade was like not an easy trade to make. The Dame trade was not an easy trade to make. They're pulling in guys like Kevin Porter Jr., like that obviously come with like, do you really want this guy? And they're like, yes, we need him because we got to have talent. Like they really are making an effort. So I think I agree with you until it changes, because if you're going to give me the option of Giannis is going to play forever in Milwaukee or he's going to change teams, like literally, everyone else except for a couple guys at his level have, I'm going to pick he's going to leave at some point. But yeah, like the fact that it's extended this long, we're going on like close to a half decade post championship, which is usually like, that's surprising that he's still there. If you're just like objectively looking at how the Bucks have done since the title and how well he's continued to play, like usually that like, augurs towards an exit. But yeah, I do think it's going to take, I don't know, maybe another, like if Dame's not healthy and they flame out first round again, like maybe we finally do see some change. I don't know, but all indications are that like, yeah, he's going to need something pretty significant to leave.
Well, and their offseason situation is fairly interesting. They have Brook Lopez headed into free agency, and if you don't include him on the books, they are going to have room beneath the tax. It's close to 15 million. That's like a 14-player calculation. It's based on Pat Connaughton, Bobby Portis, and Kevin Porter Jr. exercising player options. I wonder if Kevin Porter Jr. has played well enough that he would decline it, or if he still has so much baggage from the domestic violence allegations that he'll pick it up. That'll be, but like, if he opts out of that, that's another player that you could use who, how do we replace him? Are we going to be able to keep him? But that number doesn't include Brook Lopez, who I imagine just eats up like at least that 15 million, right?
Well,
If he's
I would
coming back.
assume. Yeah.
Damian Lillard can sign an extension, but he has a 2026, 2027 player option. Giannis, his player option's a year further, so he has 2 guaranteed years of, let's call it, team control left on his contract. And the Bucks, in terms of assets aside from players, they can trade their 2031 or 2032 first as of now, because they did duck the second apron, which that kind of looms large now that you're when you're looking. We're going to talk a little bit about the second apron in a bit. I just don't know what is I guess because you have expiring contracts and can aggregate. So if Portis and Connaughton, let's say, pick up their player options, it's like $20+ million in expiring salary that you can attach to a first. For who?
Yeah.
And it's just these distant firsts are so tough to value. We saw, it was kind of interesting that Charlotte, like, that Mark Williams trade that got rescinded, but they were even getting Austin Reeves as part of that. Not Austin Reeves, Dalton Connect as part of that deal. So it's just, you very rarely see these teams like, we're just going to accept this distant first round pick as the primary form of compensation without anything else in return. So my point is, like, they're pretty limited in what they could do, right? And that's without even guaranteeing that Brook Lopez comes back.
Right. Yeah. I mean, framed this way, and this has been the case for a little while, like it's been true for a long time that it's like really hard for the Bucks to get better. Like I think, and to use the Lillard trade as an example, they got different, but like I don't know that they actually got better. And I think that's kind of the same outlook now, where it's like you said, if they Bobby Portis and Connaughton together with a pick or whatever, like, are you going to get something back that's actually better than what you would have gotten from Portis and Connaughton? Like Portis still matters, or will it just be like a different type of player that changes how the team looks, but maybe like doesn't affect the bottom line in a hugely positive way? Like that again, I just think like, would you agree that like we are getting pretty close to midnight on like the Bucks run in its current iteration, just because like it can't get, how do they improve? Like, I don't know what the path is. And then other than like, you can't trade Dame for positive value, can you? Like, I mean, especially with, he's basically an expiring contract next year.
And it's just, even if, so let's just say you attached a first round pick to Damian Lillard, who is as the Bucks, who is the player that you would, or the type of player that you want to target from there as part of that move? I mean,
it would be a similar type of player.
Right. I'm just throwing names out there, but like, are you going to do that to bring in Kevin Durant just as an example? I mean, I guess it'd be interesting, but now
Mhm.
you've gotten older and Kevin Durant, yes, still better, but does that now you don't like in terms of playmaking, like you're definitely at a deficit from there. It does, you're right. To call it like it does feel like they're facing midnight. They need to pull, I would say, like you need to figure out a way like the Brook Lopez thing is like that's huge because it's
Mhm.
okay if he's back. All right, we at least know you can kind of run back this core, and then you do have if you're willing to mortgage what's left of your future, like you can just attach that pick to salary and get presumably, I would say at least a rotation player. You're not going to get a star, but like, can you get another wing type player in here? But then, as I'm saying that, yeah, they could figure it out. Like who's just the guy that you're going to see them get with that, and then it has to be someone who's worth like. As an example, would you have given like expiring money plus that distant first for DeAndre Hunter? Like if that was a move that was available to you this offseason, if he wasn't on the Cavs.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, or may I should say, yeah, I would definitely consider it. But like, what's that do? You know, what does that really do for the Bucks' bottom line? I don't know. I mean, they're better, I guess, but like, maybe I yeah. This is we're stepping on something we're gonna do later. But man, I'm starting to think Giannis is gonna leave soon.
Well, my whole thing is if I had to ask you right now, do you think that all three of Damian Lillard, Giannis, and Brook Lopez are in Milwaukee next season? What would your answer be?
I think it would be yes, mostly because like I don't think Dame's tradable. I don't think Giannis is quite ready to ask out, and Lopez is so, like he's still so singularly important to like making the whole thing work with Giannis that like you just if Giannis is still there, I think you kind of just like you're committed to Brook Lopez like that feels like it's very much connected.
I also wonder too, would they explore a path? But I don't know because if Connaughton and Portis are expiring, I don't know what type of equity it takes to just send them into. I mean, like both those players, I think maybe not Portis. I'll have to look at the size of his player option. They can fit into teams as non-taxpayer mid-level exceptions.
Mhm.
Is there a scenario where okay, Brook Lopez kind of cancels out your room beneath the tax, but then you make it up by dumping one of them, and you can use does your non-taxpayer mid-level get you somebody that like it okay, and what is this team's biggest need? I feel like we could come up with 3
Right.
off rip, and one of them is gonna be a Taurean Prince replacement probably.
Well, I just wonder, like, Bucks fans, weigh in. Like, what would you like? Are you satisfied, like, with the 21 title and this great run from Giannis? And like, are you looking at the next 5 to 10 years and thinking, let's keep going, let's run it into the ground? Like, I'm already leading with the question, but like, or are you thinking maybe let's get like a real kickstart here with a Giannis trade and a reset? I wonder what Bucks fans would actually want because I don't feel like Bucks fans with their heads on straight are looking at this team saying like we just need like a break and then we or two and we can win the title. Like I don't feel like that's the common sentiment.
Certainly not post Dame injury, yeah.
No, yeah, but even with him, I like maybe I don't know. It's hard to be like find me like the straw man rational fan of Team X. It's like, well, there's no such thing. Everybody's different. But like if I'm a Bucks fan, I'm looking at this like I think we kind of had our moment and I would like to not have the next decade really suck. So let's like get out ahead of it, but
Yeah,
that's easier said than
what's
done.
tough for them though is how do you make that because their picks are there. It's not a situation where Phoenix is okay. We need to go talk to Houston. We'll get
Right.
multiple of our own picks back. Their picks are more spread out,
Mhm.
and so you are trading Giannis, knowing that what at most you get back one of your future selections, if even that, when you're looking at the teams that control them. And so I think
Yeah.
that makes it tougher. And it's just I mentioned Torian Prince before. Like you don't have Gary Trent Jr.'s bird rights either. Like this is it's gonna be tough for them. I hate going from the Dame injury to that, but we kind of knew that they were entering the 11th hour, but it feels like, oh, is it just like this is it
I
now?
think it's starting to feel like it to me.